on three, guys. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Works. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second ever episode of the Cin-City Sportscast. I'm Ethan Herzog. That's Aiden Riggs. That's Chase Janssen. We're all really tired, and I'm also sort of sick. But it's fine. You guys aren't going to get sick, so we're okay. Lots of things have happened. Don't look at me like that. Lots of things
Made us scared of that one. I'm in.
If you can't hear now that I'm laughing, but lots of things have been happening in the world of sports, let alone in the city of Cincinnati. And we have elected to start out with some positive news, as the Cincinnati Bearcat baseball team so far has swept their homestand up to date. They just beat Canisius in 4, and they took down Toledo in the midweek. They play another MAC opponent in Miami of Ohio in the midweek tomorrow, to where this is being recorded on Monday, March 10th. But it was a good series, the Canisius series specifically, and we had the honor of calling the home opener on ESPN+. Chase, you had the opportunity to call the double header on Friday with Billy Hatcher, former Red and Major League ball player. And, I mean, just your overall thoughts, guys, on this baseball team who they came off of a tough stretch on the road and then kind of took it off at home and made things happen.
It's the bounce back they needed. I mean, they got everyone back that they needed to. They got Brooks, they got Cross, they got Vidrick back. Everyone made a big impact. Kieran Cross had probably, at least 8+ hits, it seemed like, in that entire series, if not more. I mean, he's probably one of the best all-around players that we have on campus at Cincinnati. I mean, he's so just amazing at everything he does. But the pitching staff looked really well as well. Canisius had a couple hitters that were coming into the game batting 400, and they were able to limit them to only maybe 2 or 3 hits all series. I mean, it was such a strong showing by the entire team.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what Cincinnati was able to do, the top of the lineup, of course, but then, especially in that first doubleheader game on Friday, you saw the bottom of the lineup was really good. Charlie Niehaus and Donovan Ford and other guys like that. I mean, they really stepped up, and, just being able to have that full lineup come together, get the bats hot really early on was big. Like you mentioned, that West Coast trip wasn't the best, but at the same time, coming back home, and there's something different about playing home games. That's just what it is. You're comfortable. It's a place that you've practiced, that you've played so many times. I mean, just getting back into familiarity and everything. And, there's going to be a lot of home games that are coming up for the Bearcats, in the month of March, and we're excited to see what they can do. And again, like off the carrying the cross thing, man, he was just able to find, bat to ball, make a play, get on base, and that dude's really good at baseball. And
I mean, Jack Natilli too, in that same vein, he is batting right around 400 too. I mean, I know yesterday he hit 4 for 4. And it's just an insane pickup out of the portal for Coach Bischel and the Bearcats. But it'll be Miami, Ohio. That's next home game. Then they head on the road for 3. They'll play Arizona in Tucson. And then they'll come back home. They'll play BYU, Louisville, and UCF to wrap up the month of March. And that's going to be a busy month of March. Not just for them, but for us as we all work those games and things. But that's the good news. The bad news is all over the place, and it starts with the Cincinnati Bearcat men's basketball team. They lost again to Oklahoma State, and they get to go and play the Cowboys again in the Big 12 tournament. The first round is tomorrow, Tuesday, March 11th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 Central. And hopes, to put it lightly, have been scattered, dashed, and burned when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
I wish I still had class during the time of the game, but that's not the case. And that sounds harsh, but it's like, it's unfortunate because we had so much hope going into the season. It's not like we just didn't see it at all from this Bearcats team. We saw the Bearcats start off, like 10, 11-1, whatever. I mean, and they were 10-1, I believe, but they were at highest number 14 in the country. They were up there in the top 15 consistently early on in the season. But man, you get the Big 12 play, man. It's no joke. It is, they just didn't seem like they were ready to go, and got punched in the mouth and didn't really respond the best way that they should have, and it was unfortunate to see. And now you're in a situation like this where this could be, and probably is, one of the most disappointing Cincinnati Bearcats teams that we've seen in such a long time.
And I know that last time this kind of double like back-to-back play happened. It was against West Virginia, and Cincinnati crushed West Virginia and then went into the tournament and then had to come back against West Virginia. I don't know if we see that against this Oklahoma State team that, granted, they are on paper not as good as the Bearcats are coming into this game, but I don't think that really matters because we were looking at the game. I mean, I watched part of the game. I was doing other things while the game was happening in Stillwater, but I watched a little bit of the replay, and I mean, those guys just seem so unmotivated to get out on the floor and to play, other than maybe Jizzle James.
I mean, the effort is just not there from anyone. I mean, even when you listen to Wes Miller, he's saying we've got guys out there who just don't seem like they want to be there. They just don't want to show any effort, try, and it's just come to hurt them so far down the stretch. I mean, it hasn't been there for some games. Kansas State, it wasn't there. That was not a great performance on senior night. And the fall off of some of these guys is just insane. I mean, Dan Skillian, Simas Lukosius, even, I mean, Aziz Mandego hasn't had a great game either in a while. I mean, it just hasn't been pretty all around. Some of these guys coming into the season were on watch lists for Player of the Year and just hasn't panned out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you look, Kansas State was the dagger game. That pretty much killed any hope that we had. Again, lost by 9 to Houston on the first day of March, and you're like, okay, like there's a bit of hope. If you win these next 2 regular season games, you win a couple of Big 12 tournament games, you've got a chance. And looking at their road, I mean, if you were looking before, you're like, okay, you beat Oklahoma State, you'd play Iowa State, who you took down pretty much to the wire until some things didn't go so well, and you're able to get them. You got BYU next, and it's like those are teams you can beat. But after what happened against Kansas State on Wednesday, just it's not looking good, and I think a lot of us, pretty much all of us Bearcat fans, have just sold out hope for this team because of what we've seen so far, and the unmotivated play that it seems that they're putting on the court is just it's pursed through everybody.
I mean, it's definitely been tough, and I mean, you look at it, and Bearcats effectively have to go all the way through the tournament to make it to the NCAA tournament. But we look at their options, if not, and more than likely not, they make the NCAA tournament, and that's the NIT or the new Crown tournament that's in Las Vegas. I can't remember when it is, the week of the...
I believe it starts the 30th of March. It's the same week as the Final Four.
Yeah.
It leads into the
That's
Final
2
Four.
weeks. That's 2 weeks off right there. Like, do guys really want to wait that extra time just to go out to Vegas and play basketball? Again, it's going out to Vegas, but it's like, do they really want to wait just to play basketball?
And the thing with it, too, is that you can't deny it, or you can't say, I don't want to go. You have to form a team of some kind contractually with your deal with Fox and the Big 12.
Yep.
It poses an interesting viewpoint for a lot of these guys that might want to just hit the portal right after the season ends. What do you decide to do?
Yeah, it's like there's been specific guys on our team that they have been guys that we've, that they're not the guy we thought they were, and, you kind of already listed off some of the names and stuff like that, Aiden, but it's just, it is really unfortunate to see how things have gone down this path that we didn't think was a possible path for this team after what we saw at the start of the season, and it has just been a complete letdown.
I mean, I know, too, another concern that people have is Shana Bayev, one of the biggest recruits that Cincinnati men's basketball is going to have in a long time, if not ever. People are concerned if he's not going to even come with how the Bearcats have been performing in recency. Like, going, and obviously you mentioned, Houston being number 4, and they were trailing. They had a lead coming into that game, then they blew it, which obviously that was a game that we're expected to win, so it's fine. But you look at the rest of the schedule, and a lot of these are games that that this team should have won. West Virginia both times is a game that you should have won. Texas Tech, a game you should have won. At BYU, a game you should have won. Kansas was a game you should have won. Baylor was a game you should have won. Arizona, first time at Kansas State, you should have won. I mean, you look at the schedule, and obviously it's a lot of should-haves, and hypotheticals don't win you championships, but it's a tough schedule to really look at. The Villanova game is such a disappointment when you really go back and look at it. 60-68 was that final on December 3rd. That was a heartbreaker. And I mean, granted, we had the win over Xavier for the first time in 5 years. We have a win over Dayton when we lost to them last year in the Hoops Classic. But you look at that, and those are just blips in distant memory if you really take into consideration how this season went. You mentioned it started off 10-1. You're 17-14. You only won 7 games after the fact.
I think the problem that they're faced this year was that the Big 12 was a gauntlet, and they knew it coming into it. But they looked like an American team still. They looked like a team still in the American playing a Big 12 conference schedule, and they got away with some, but they just look outmatched a lot of times out there. And with what this roster is, you should not be outmatched. It's a bigger issue than just the players on the floor, it feels like at times. Something's got to change here if you want to compete in this conference.
I don't want to say there's no guy on the court that can go get a bucket when you need to get a bucket, because there's like Jizzle James, Day Tom, stuff like that. But when stuff breaks down in a conference like the Big 12, there are guys on the court that can go get buckets when stuff turns to chaos. When stuff turns to chaos for the Cin-City Bearcats, it just stays chaos. And it's like, I agree with you. It's like watching an American team play in the Big 12 right now. And it's unfortunate because we had so much high hopes coming into the season. But when stuff is not meshing together with players and some of the schematics and flowing of offense and stuff, and when you're not able to get buckets in the system, you have to go out of structure and trust other players to get buckets, and they're not doing that, this is the result that you get. And it's unfortunate because, like, Utah could have beat Utah the first time. Very easily could have beat Utah the first time. West Virginia, the first time we played West Virginia at home, they came out. I mean, that was sluggish. That was pathetic. Kansas State, that was the second. I mean, both times we should have beat them, but especially the second time. You win 3 or 4 more games, you're 21-10, and you're pretty much going to make March Madness. You win another tournament game in the Big 12. You're definitely not playing on Tuesday at this rate, and stuff looks a lot better if you win those games that you're supposed to win. But now you're looking back in hindsight at 2020, and you're like, dang, we could have had 20 wins.
It's tough, and I don't even know what the answer would be at this point. Wes Miller's coming back for another year, but who do we even pick up in the portal? Who leaves? Who stays?
That's a tough question, and that's a loaded question.
When you look at it, I mean, you've got 2 guys coming in next year who potentially could start off the bat. You've got Abayev, you got Tillery. I think Abayev would play a 3 probably, yeah. And Tillery would be either point guard, shooting guard. Everywhere else is up for grabs. I don't know who's going to stay. Dylan Mitchell, I think, in my mind, is the only guy that will stay no matter what, because I don't see him hitting the portal. It would shock me if he did. Everyone else, I don't know. I mean, Day Thomas could come back. He's got the extra year of eligibility with the JUCO rule. Jizzle James has shown some ability this year, but it hasn't been quite the same as he had last year. I don't know where else you go.
This is just me. I don't see a world where Jizzle James comes back.
I don't either.
I don't see a world because there's going to be a guy down there in the state of Texas, preferably in Houston, that might want him offensively, named Kelvin Sampson.
I agree with that.
I think there's multiple others that would want him.
There are a ton of others,
but he's the number one.
and you saw it in the offseason in the summer. Where was Jizzle James working out at? Houston. He was getting his work in Houston.
Yeah,
it's not far.
I definitely think that we may be a Jizzle James-less team next season if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, because he wants to win. And through 2 years in this program, it's been somewhat a showing of mediocrity. And that's just the unfortunate truth of how the Bearcats have been of recent memory up to this point.
And the thing that's interesting, too, when you look at the roster even more in depth, you got guys like Josh Reed and Arlington Page. I mean, Reed, especially down the stretch, he played really well and was one of the only guys in the month of February that showed up for almost every single game. Guys like those are going to get some attention in the portal. Rayvon Griffith is a guy who hasn't played much. He got a lot of attention too. What do they decide to do? Are you starting fully from scratch almost with this roster? And can you expect the team that's almost entirely built of freshmen and transfers to compete next year?
Yeah, and you also want to mention about Josh Reed, like, he had that month of February where he had, over like 5 or 6 games of double-digit scoring efforts. And, for a guy like that, if he were to hit the portal, does he float around and go to – it's tough to make that, take a step back and go to a smaller school, but then become one of the main guys at a smaller school. What's his mindset like? Arrington Page, like you mentioned, what's going on with him? So it's like I'm intrigued to see the mindset of what a lot of these players are. Is, do I want to go to a winning program, or do I want to have a chance to shine and then maybe win as well?
There's a lot of guys on that roster that would succeed at some of these high-level mid-majors. When I think of like some of the historic teams in Missouri Valley, Drake, St. Louis, teams like that, even Indiana State had some success in the past few years. A guy like Josh Reed, I think, would excel tremendously at a school like that.
It's not a slouch of a conference, and at the same time, and I'm not saying that that these guys don't want to win, but they definitely want to get opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe some of these guys decide to take their step up, but they take a reduced level, or some of these guys decide to take a step down and have an expanded level, or do they stay? And do they try to see, can things get better here in Cincinnati?
That sigh was so true.
Yeah.
Your sigh made me almost sigh.
Man.
And I did.
And I mean, you look at the other, just to touch on the other basketball here in the area, Xavier, they're a part of the last 4 in. Ohio State, same thing. Dayton still has to make a run in the tournament to be considered. Dayton's probably also an NIT team coming up, but Xavier and Sean Miller's guys, they'll head to the tournament more likely than not, and Ohio State will do the same thing, I'm sure.
It really hurts me to say this, but all credit to Xavier down the stretch.
I agree wholeheartedly.
In Big East play, they have excelled and they've shown up.
Yes,
they've had some big-time opponents, and they've stepped up to the plate each time. I mean, that big game they had against Creighton, crazy crowd they had in the Cintos for that one, and they showed up and then went on the road against Butler. Got the job done. They got a big one against Marquette coming up, too, in the first round of Big East.
Yeah, and I know we wear our Cincinnati gear, but we also keep it real, man. Xavier, they showed up. They played really good basketball. Zach Fremantle down the stretch was a dog. You've got other guys around like Ryan Cantwell, Davion McKnight, Maddox off the bench. Those guys stepped up. They did their thing. They played big-time basketball, and now they get to play basketball on a big stage at Madison Square Garden, Big East Conference tournament, what you dream for when you play in that conference and in all of college basketball. They got a chance to really go up against some of these really good teams and just strengthen their resume even more. They won 1 or 2 games. 1, they might be in the championship of their conference, and 2, they're a shoo-in for March Madness.
All respect for them. Also, shout out Louisville. I have to.
Yeah.
Pat Kelsey.
18-2 at home in
Man.
his first year at the helm at Louisville. Insanity.
It was questionable at times when he was announced as the hire in Louisville, because I got to work at a media outlet in Louisville when that was announced. But the way that he's embraced the city is outstanding. To be the head coach of the University of Louisville, you have to have something specifically to relate to the people, because that city breathes that school. Every single person is bought in to Pat Kelsey. He's been embraced so much. It's so impressive. All credit to him and all he's done already.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what they were able to do from the start of the season. You're like, okay, out of conference, but they're beating some pretty good teams. But you get in the ACC. I mean, they went through a gauntlet and they did such a great job. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see a new coach come in there to a city that's pretty close to ours and everything else. And Louisville's a pretty historic basketball program, and they were able to have a really good regular season, and now they have a chance to do some great things in March. And it's exciting to see a team like that who's been down in the dumps for a little bit get a chance to have that come up and try to get back to what Louisville basketball means.
Now, with that, we will turn our attention to Chase. This is your time to shine, and I know you have all the opinions. It's Bengals are doing some stuff. They franchise tagged T. Higgins to start.
That was fitting.
That was.
Yeah. Franchise tag T. They told Trey Hendrickson that he could seek a trade, which is an interesting take on what we thought would happen when it came to Trey Hendrickson. Recently, I know they signed B.J. Hill and Mike Gesicki, so that's a good one. But they did sign B.J. Hill today. We've been kind of watching the trends on who is being signed and where and how and for how much and for how long. But Chase, I'm gonna let you just kind of take this one away.
Okay. So the Bengals' last game of the season was on January the 4th on Saturday night. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-17, had a chance to make the playoffs. Obviously, it needed about 60 things to happen, and 59 of them did, and the 60th thing did not happen. And that was just the way to sum off the season and just end it. Normally, when you're that close to making a playoff push and just getting in and everything, you would go on ahead and say, hey, we have to be proactive in the decision making. We have to go on ahead and make sure we have the guys that we have to contain on our roster to make a championship push, and then go out, and then we'll find other guys that can fill those holes and then go into the draft and figure that stuff out as well, to create the best team possible, because you have great players on offense and a stud pass rusher on defense, and let alone another great linebacker on defense in Logan Wilson. But enough said on that. What we've done to lead up to this point before the tampering period started Monday, March 10th at noon, I have no idea what this is. And honestly, as a fan, until something else changes, I've lost hope. When it comes to the front office, I've lost all hope. The T franchise tag, they're paying him $26 million on the franchise tag. He's, after seeing some other deals that have occurred, DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, by the way. 5 years, $150 million. Okay? And DK is a number one receiver in this league. DK also had 992 yards receiving last year on just over 60 catches. You don't think a guy like T. Higgins is going to be like, well, I want that type of money as well. It's going to be $30+ million. That's a different conversation for a different time. Well, actually, this might be the time. But it is so frustrating just to see how the Bengals front office has really gone about it. And there was a tweet. Let me pull this up.
No.
All right.
He's getting receipts out.
I want to
I
want to have this discussion with all of us, all right? I hope I screenshotted it. It was the fact, here it is. It says, if the Bengals acted when they were supposed to, they could have had Jesse Bates for $12 million a year. $12 million a year. That was 2 years ago. Now he's an all-pro safety. T. Higgins for $23 million a year. Like I said, DK Metcalf signed for $30 million for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jamar Chase for $35 million a year. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown last year. The price has gone up. Trey Hendrickson for $25 million a year. Myles Garrett just signed a contract for $40 million per year with the Cleveland Browns, and Trey Hendrickson just led the NFL in sacks in 2024. And that's at 17.5 sacks back-to-back years. Is this the worst front office in the National Football League?
Also, if you're going to say all time, I was going to say just look at the Reds front office. But
yeah, that's a different story of which
that's
one's,
that's a whole different
which
story.
one's worse. So.
Anyway, we'll digress from that one. But it's a problem, to say the least. And I mean, you look at it, and I have every single transaction pulled up for the Cincinnati Bengals so far in 2025. I'll read them off to you right now.
Oh, boy.
Long snapper, Cal Adamitis, thank you. Signed a 1-year contract extension. Defensive line B.J. Hill just signed today, returning on a 3-year, $33 million contract. Offensive line Cody Ford re-signed a 2-year contract. Tight end Tanner Hudson re-signed a 1-year contract. Tight end Mike Gesicki re-signed on a 3-year deal worth $25.5 million with a $12 million guaranteed in year 1. And T. Higgins got franchise tagged. Non-exclusive franchise tag for the second straight year, which will pay T. Higgins $26.2 million for the 2025 season. The Bengals said they intend to work with the 6-year pro toward a long-term deal this offseason. Tanner Hudson's questionable. Cody Ford, I'm okay with. B.J. Hill, I don't know.
The injury concern was a thing for BJ Hill, and looking at how, and we kind of talked about it like really briefly in a way, but I think with how much some defensive tackles are going for, I don't think this is a bad signing. But again, BJ Hill's at 29 years old. When he's on the field, I think he's a good player, and we got him over trade with the New York Giants way back in 2021, and we won that trade for sure. But it's looking at everything else, Tanner Hudson. Cody Ford, good versatility piece on the offensive line. So I'm like, that's completely fine because you need to have depth on the offensive line. He played guard and tackle at some points in the season, and then Gesicki, I'm glad we were able to re-sign him because he does play tight end, but he pretty much is a receiver, is another big receiver in the slot, and the T thing. So T's franchise tag is $26 million. You could just pay him.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You could just pay him. But again, like my biggest thing on the entire thing is this. You might want to put the screen on real quick.
He wants full screen.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. He wants that.
The Philadelphia Eagles were able to pay 8 guys over the course of like $40 million, and the Bengals are having such a hard time of doing this.
Oh, no, he's going Stephen A. Smith on him.
Oh, my gosh. Why does my team do this every single time? But the thing is, here's the big thing. You don't get Joe Burrow every single day. You don't get Jamar Chase every single day. T. Higgins is not going to walk through this door 20 years later like, oh, hey, I'm T. Higgins too. But look, the big thing on this is you have to pay your stars right now. You got to be able to find a way to get this thing done. And what good is saving money if all you're going to do is just save money for this type of time? Back in the day, the Bengals had they had a cheap organization, all right? And you go on ahead and you get the best players in the league. And all you're going to do is save money again? What are we saving for? What's the insurance plan? Is it insurance for insurance on top of insurance? What's going on? There's a disconnect, a huge disconnect. I don't know how wide of a disconnect it is, but it's not good. And the Bengals need to pay their stars, and we need to go on a championship run. We've had it before. Let's do it again. Pay your guys.
All right, and cut. Cool, that was a great take, Chase. Sorry, I found this on the floor.
I saw you looking at it. I was like, oh, jeez, I don't know where this is going to go.
This is cool. I'm going to use this. Anyway, sidebar. But
I just want to say one thing off of everything that
Sorry, I didn't mean
Chase
to go on
just
that.
let there. I'm going to quote Super Bowl halftime performance Kendrick Lamar. It's not enough. It's just not enough. They're not doing enough. I mean, You're doing stuff that's not necessarily bad. You got Gesicki back. You're trying to work out T. Higgins, but you need more. I mean, it has to step up if you want to compete. You're not showing up and filling the gaps you have. Cody Ford, depth, good. Gesicki, as I said, good. Good return piece. You need more. It's just not enough. We need more all around to be able to compete.
Yeah.
Pay your stars. Pay your stars, man.
There is nothing that I can say that you guys didn't just say.
Can I drop something that just happened?
Yeah, go for it.
The Steelers have released Larry Ogunjobi.
Oh.
Which would be hysterical if
bit.
another one came back to the Bengals.
A little bit.
So, no.
He also has a chance to go to the Ravens and complete the entire AFC North sweep.
But
Yeah,
also
he
be
does.
hysterical.
It also would be fun.
That would be funny, too. Also, I've just been kind of scrolling through the transaction list here. Offensive guard Alex Kappa signed a 2-year, $11 million contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. Fun fact, he'll be protecting Geno Smith, and
Not Geno Stone.
not
Geno Stone.
Not Geno Stone. We
Geno
still have him. We still have him.
Stone.
Oh, man.
And also, going on the whole argument on Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby signed a 3-year extension worth $106.5 million with $91.5 guaranteed. Khalil Mack re-signed on a 1-year, $18 million contract that's fully guaranteed.
And now Myles Garrett just signed the largest non-quarterback deal in NFL history.
Yeah.
Over 24 hours ago.
Javon Kinlaw agreed to a 45 The 3-year, $45 million deal with $30 million guaranteed.
That's an interesting one. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just reading all the defensive linemen and edge rushers that I can find on this list.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to convince people that being a procrastinator is not a good thing, show them what the Bengals have done in this offseason, because it's going to come back and bite them. It's clearly shown it already. It's hurting them.
Burrow's going to want out of Cincinnati. Chase is going to want out of Cincinnati.
And Chase is gonna want out of Cincinnati too.
I mean, hey, that's
my
a fair
gosh.
that's a fair concern
At
to
this
have
rate.
At this point, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
Oh no.
Oh jeez.
Oh no.
Per Adam Schefter,
Oh no.
Oh.
former Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold has agreed to a 3-year deal with Seattle.
What? Oh boy.
$110 million, 55 guaranteed.
That's wild.
So we're looking at around $37 million a season, compared to other quarterbacks getting 50 and 60, and he had a great season last year. I like that live drop right there. That was okay. Sam
Wow.
Darnold in Seattle. I think
Huh.
when Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders, which
Yeah.
again that was also really like did not see it coming, but also
Yeah.
Pete Carroll's their head coach down there. They're trying to rebuild. They're trying to get a new thing going, and Seattle, I mean, they just completely changed their offense up, I'll tell you. But, got Sam Darnold in there. Should be interesting. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him to say, was it just a one-year fluke in Minnesota? Was it because of Kevin O'Connell, who's a really good head coach? Sam Darnold's got a lot to prove. And again, in the scheduling aspects, you might see some Sam Darnold on some primetime games early on in the season.
You might. You really might. Also, free agency discussion here. Deebo Samuel to Washington?
For a 5th-round pick on
Yeah.
top of that.
Do we compare this to the Luka trade? To the Lakers?
I don't think anything will compare to the state that we were in during the Luka trade.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But
We were in a state. For
We
that
were in a
one.
st- we were in a state.
state for that one.
yeah, but
I've never seen that many people around our age come together for one thing and be such in shock.
the amount of dap ups
yeah.
and just like oh my god, this happened. Like
Yeah.
Where were you? When the
Where
Luka
were
trade-
I
you
don't
when
know where-
Luka
I don't
got
know.
traded? I'm pretty sure I was asleep, actually.
that's a way to wake up.
Yeah, I was asleep when the trade happened. And I woke up and I looked and I was like, huh, that's weird. I don't do the NBA, so I'm like, I mean, it's kind of strange, why is this trade, whatever. And then I talked to a bunch of my friends who are all Mavs fans, and they're like, I am in shambles. I need help. Please help me. I don't know how I'm going to cope.
They had an open casket.
What?
It was closed casket.
Closed casket with
What?
nothing. Yeah,
If it was open, that'd be
Yeah,
that would be.
that'll be weird.
yeah. Well, an open they just had a casket out there at the arena,
Huh.
and it just like
It's just a casket with
Yeah.
a wax doll of Luka.
but it's like. But back to the Debo thing, like, here's the thing. So, Debo Samuel, man, do you know how re-energized this guy's going to probably try to be in a Cliff Kingsbury offense with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback and now Brian Robinson playing running back? They could virtually run the triple option if they wanted to.
Oh,
I'm not going to lie. They could
no.
virtually do it if they wanted to in a
Oh,
more spaced
no.
out look. And Terry McLaurin's on the outside as number one receiver. Debo Samuel's going to be in a really good spot I also said San Francisco. He's going to be a really good spot in Washington. And they could turn in to what San Francisco had a couple of occasions ago. And this could be a really good thing for Washington.
And we saw how they played against us last year on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Insanity.
You made a real interesting point there comparing it to the Luka trade, because one of the big things that people have kept against Deebo Samuel the past years has been that he's been out of shape, which is a similar thing to what the Mavs said about trading Luka away.
Yeah.
But Deebo, when he's in his element, he's one of the strongest receivers that I think is in the NFL. I mean, he's such a large human being that's so hard to take down. He's so powerful.
Mhm.
I mean, he can run out of the backfield as well as they've used with him in San Francisco, but that's a real interesting trade.
Yeah. You don't think that Cliff Kingsbury is going to use him like that too? I mean, he's going to get the most use out of Debo Samuel that he can get, as well as his other pieces. Again, they re-sign Zach Ertz, and they also have Terry McLaurin, 1,000-yard receiver on the outside, and they're all-world electric quarterback in Jaden Daniels, man. This is going to be a really fun offense to watch. And, again, Washington's going to be his team that you see throughout the entire season on so many national television games.
Are we about to see the wing T come back to the NFL with Debo Samuel and Jaden Daniels? The Washington Commanders.
A T formation, man. I know Penn State runs it in their goal line packages. They could take a
Hey, man, shout out Ross High School. They run the wing T.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Shout out Coach Cummins.
Oh, man.
Miss that guy. I hope he's doing well.
Oh, jeez. Ross High School, man. That's a good drop on here.
Oh, I know.
Like
I know. With high school, I mean, there's plenty of high school sports going on. The state championship races are going on right now, and I know notably Purcell Marion is making their trip to state. D. Alexander, Cincinnati commit, and the first ever 5-star commit for Cincinnati women's basketball is going to be in action soon. I think it's next weekend. No, this weekend.
You know, I know someone's going to be watching this, so I'll
One
give
of
a
the
shout
two.
out. Shout out to Lydia. She's covering.
Yeah, shout out Lydia.
She's doing the photos for their entire thing for Purcell Marion for Capstone. So shout out to her. But
Super
hey,
cool.
Go on, yeah,
Super cool.
but again, they're trying to go 4 in a row.
Yeah, so it'll be 4 in a
Wow.
row. D. Alexander has been nominated for Ohio Miss Basketball, I believe, for the 3rd time in a row. I mean, if you've seen D. Alexander play, she dropped, I believe, 60 on my alma mater, Roger Bacon.
Oh,
Yeah. She's nuts.
Is she up there for all-time high school player in Ohio right now?
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean,
She has to
it's
be.
got to be put in the conversation.
yeah,
She has to be at this point. I mean, you look at her career through 4 years, it's nuts. And Katrina Merriweather and Abby Jump, namely, who's the recruiting coordinator for Cincinnati women's basketball, made a terrific pick in trying to and winning a hometown kid and effectively getting your next Jillian Hayes.
I saw a quarter of their Elite Eight game against Baden, and I believe they were up around like 27-7 after 1.
And that's pretty much how they go every game.
Yeah.
That's the story of Purcell Marion basketball.
That team brings the energy. Their coaching staff brings the energy. I mean, it is just so contagious, and it was incredible to watch. Just for one quarter.
Do you think you're watching Division II women's basketball?
Oh yeah, they move the basketball around so well.
Yeah.
Get to the cup. And they play with just a lot of fire.
It's absolute insanity.
They're so good. They're really good.
And I'm making an executive decision now, and it's going to be tape recorded so that we all know we're going to try and cover as much high school baseball as we can, because high school baseball in the city of Cincinnati is a thing to be marveled at. Because this is a baseball city. We talked about this on ESPN when Cincinnati played Toledo. Just the roots of baseball in this city, between high school to college with Cincinnati and Xavier, Miami, Dayton, NKU even, up to the pros. I mean, Dayton Dragons are up, obviously, in Dayton. Louisville Bats, Cincinnati Reds down in Chattanooga. I mean, this is a lot. So we're going to try our best, fingers crossed, to cover as much high school baseball as possible, because there's a lot of it. Softball, too, because why not?
Softball's fun.
Softball's fun.
Yeah.
Big 12 softball, don't sleep on it. Even after Oklahoma and Texas left, don't sleep on that, because high school, just baseball and softball, so fun.
Springtime.
Yeah. Just feels right in the city of Cincinnati.
Sure does.
I said that Tuesday. This city just breezed baseball. It was born here. Professional game. First ever team was Cincinnati Reds. I mean, spread in Ohio.
Red legs, red stockings. Whole lot of red, man.
Reds.
Whole lot of red.
Reds. That's the story of that. And due to time constraints, we're going to cut this short. But, I mean, a great discussion all around between all assets and some great NFL findings as well.
What are you going to do, Bengals? What are you going to do?
Please, something.
It's a big question.
Prove us wrong.
Please.
Please.
We would love it.
Please.
We beg. We beg on our hands and knees to our Lord and Savior, Houday, who I actually know the mascot actor for Houday. I hope you're doing well, sir.
You're gonna dox him?
No, I don't know. I'm not going to dox him.
Wait, there's someone in that costume? He's not an actual tiger?
Oh, I've said too much.
Oh
no. But I've just ruined Aiden's dreams.
Killed the childhood, man.
Oh
Shoot.
man, it's like saying Santa's not real. That may not make it in there.
Yeah, that one might get cut.
That one might get cut. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Cin-City Sportscast. You can find us on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And yeah, if you ever want to hit us up, we have Twitters and things. Herzog Sports on Twitter. If you guys want to plug yourselves too, I'm not gonna.
Aiden Riggs _ on Twitter.
What's
That underscore.
You want to hit him with a smolder on the camera?
Underscore.
There you go.
Yance Chase 32. I'm backwards. Yance Chase 32. Cut that. Let's do a
Nah, that's saying in.
Nah, I'm cool. Yance Chase 32. Just my name backwards. Okay. That's all it is. That's all it is. Trust me. Trust me.
Man, we got a little bit of comedy on this episode too.
We're
We're a twofold show. We're comedy and sports. How about that?
There we go. What about the?
Oh man,
That echo was crazy.
That was wild.
we got the soundboard over here. I'll put it on the soundboard
Yeah, we might as
for
well.
later in the day. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. Jace Yance is right there. Aiden Riggs is right here. Ethan Herzog is right here. I don't know why I said it like that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate the support. And we'll see you guys next week on the Cin-City Sportscast. Go Sports.
Go Sports.
Yay.